we were experiencing so much frustration with that process and getting nowhere, hitting a wall with both districts, I wrote a Facebook post just out of frustration. It was just like any other day when I'm ticked off about something. This happened to be a really big thing for us. And I wrote a post expressing, what was happening to us and why we were so frustrated by the process. And my immediate circle of friends was really, really outraged on behalf of Simon, because they knew how important this was for him, and they also could tell that this was really unjust and unfair. And some of them asked me to make the post public so that they could share it, and I did that. And within hours of doing that, I started to get to be contacted by total strangers in the community who wanted to help and were offering different ways that they could help. And those people were sharing the post, and the people they shared the post with shared the post, and on and on and on. And eventually, I think that post ended up just being shared thousands of times, and it garnered a lot of really rapid community support. And at the point that I realized that that's what was happening, I started to understand that this was really our best shot. Our best shot at trying to fix this situation was to get the community behind us to realize that this was discrimination and that there were broader implications beyond just our family, that this discriminatory rule was affecting lots of other families as well. So I got advice from a friend of mine who's a strategic planner, and she was the one who told me I should create a separate Facebook page just for our cause. And that was sort of a turning point, because I hadn't really thought of that. I'm not a social media mogul. I'm on Facebook as much as anyone else, but that's really the extent of my social media involvement. And at the point at which we created a separate Facebook page for the cause, that's when things really started to explode. The page started getting shared all over the world. I think in the end, one of our posts alone, just one of our posts, reached almost 20,000 unique Facebook users, and the page itself ended up reaching over 40,000 unique Facebook members all over the world. Wasn't even just limited to our local area. And at that point, people started to use other means of social media that are beyond me, things like Twitter. They started tweeting a hashtag, a unique hashtag for the cause. And all of these elements of social media started to come together to really target and narrow a focus on this specific issue. And it started to pick up steam. And that's the point at which the media started to pay attention. And then the point at which the media started to pay attention, we were just a few days before school was going to start. We had made no significant progress despite me being on the phone with everyone, including my MLA, who was working really hard for us. We were on the afternoon and evening news for quite a few days in a row leading up to ultimately the day when we did find our resolution. So from our perspective, certainly in combination with the fact that we did fully commit publicly to a legal challenge, to a Charter of Rights legal challenge, that combined with the fact that we garnered this kind of exposure through social media and then through the traditional media, the combination of those two factors, I think, was absolutely what we could attribute our success to, in that the school division did decide that they would allow Simon to attend at the absolute last possible minute on Friday before school started. We didn't have a single negative comment on our Facebook page. We didn't have a single negative response on Twitter. I think the only place where negativity occurred, and I never looked there, was the comments section on the news articles when they were posted online. And I had some friends just say, don't read the comments section, which is really, I think, a rule that we should all live by. Don't read the comments section. I think my first tip is don't start with social media. Depending on where you are at with your advocacy, social media may or may not be the right place to go. And I think the first thing that you really need to look at is what are what is the chain of command that I need to be following in this case, if possible. But generally speaking, if we're talking about an inclusive education, you need to talk with your child's teacher. If you're talking about a classroom situation, you need to then talk to vice principals or principals. If you cannot resolve, then you need to start looking at superintendents and ultimately use your elected officials. One of the first places that we contacted was our MLA, and she was, again, very instrumental in helping open some doors for us to have Simon's story heard. And then the social media piece for us really came when none of those established routes were working. So if the issue is really important to you and you're not getting anywhere with the systems that have been established to help you, then I think that's when it's time to start looking at social media. It is the way now that you let your community know about issues that are happening that may be important to them that they may otherwise never know about. And I think that's really what our experience with social media and advocacy showed us, is that the community cares about these kinds of issues, but there's really no way for the average Joe or the average family like us to get that story out, to tell them something's happening in your community that you might not want to happen. We believed that they didn't want their schools to be discriminating against kids with special needs. And this was really the way now in our modern age to get that message out. So I think it's a really important tool, and we would use it again if we needed to.